there may be some things in your mind that you tell yourself, like, I don't know, in terms of, if you have kids or relationships or things like that, and what you think about that. But a lot of times, people who are uh, privileged or successful in some way, like they look at that, like that dimension of their life where they're lacking, and they say, this is what's going to bring me happiness. But Buddha's
I
uniquely,
think I do that a lot.
yeah, not going to work. Hate to break it to you.
Yeah. I'm very much a problem solver brain, and I also agree it's probably not gonna work.
Yeah,
I actually think it gets really bad because I become very like kind of compulsive about those issues, but
yeah,
it doesn't really make a difference at the end of the day because I'll just become compulsive about something else once one thing is dealt with.
brilliant. So I can keep talking about Buddha, but I can't let that slide. So, where does that compulsivity come from? Why are you compulsive? Help us understand that.
I think I just have a problem solver brain, and it's served me for so many years. I can't really turn it off.
What does that mean, problem solver brain? Help us understand that.
I may think that it spawns from the wrong thing, but I always thought that I came from like having a strong love for mathematics and going into engineering. And I mean, my life was school, and so it was always about like problem solving, min maxing, trying to be as productive as possible, trying to do my best in all aspects, etc., etc. And I feel like when it comes to content creation, what makes a content creator really successful is a lot of being able to problem solve and being able to min max and learning what works and doesn't and changing and evolving, etc. And so because it has served me for so many years, it's a part of me that is kind of hard to turn off. But I've noticed, especially as of late, that it's more so like not trying to like fix good problems per se or helpful problems. It's just like being obsessive about the next thing that I can fix or
And
make better.
you you've thought about this a lot.
Hmm?
You've thought about this a lot. Very insightful. So let's try to take the next step. Okay, so when you don't problem solve, how do you feel?
I don't think I've ever done that. What does that mean, not problem solve?
Exactly. All right, so you've got to learn exactly what Buddha learned. Okay. And so the good news is that you can get better. I think it's just you're gonna have to do something that you've never done before, which is to not try. Right?
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. So we'll try to help you. We'll try to help you not try. Um, so let's talk about this for a second. So you said, so let me, okay. I'm gonna ask you about the tangled stuff. Okay. So like when you say things are tangled, can you help me understand, like, what, like when you wake up and you're crying on a particular day, like what kind of thoughts are you having, or what kind of feelings are you having?
um, hmm. It's just, when something is so tangled, it's like, where do you start?
Sure. Yeah, just give me something, anything.
Um, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with um, like if my personal life is going well, like with my friends or like my relationships, people in my life, then it's like, okay, well, then I need to problem solve in terms of like work. And then I'll just like think about, um, it's so hard not to cry. You haven't fixed this for me. um,
So let's stop and think about that for a second. The first thing that you come on here and say is, you say, problem solve for me, fix something for me, help me not cry. When you notice, when you set a problem for yourself, and Iman says, I don't want to cry, and then you start crying, how do you feel about yourself? Like, what's that? Like, we saw frustration, right? You're like, you were supposed to fucking help me with this. Why
or
is it
like,
still
I mean,
happening?
I'm mostly frustrated with myself, obviously, not you.
Absolutely. Why are you
Just
like
kind of making a joke
tell me
about it.
about that. How do you feel about yourself?
I feel like I'm doing something that I shouldn't. And that's not something that works with the kind of person that I am. Like I really don't like to do things that I actively feel are things I shouldn't do ever.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes, obviously, but like when I know something is like very clearly like right or wrong, and I feel like in this situation, like it just does not compute to be crying, and so to see myself react that way is very frustrating.
Okay. So what I'm noticing is like I'm just going to tell you what I heard, okay? So look at it with me. Okay. So you have a should. Iman
Mhm.
shouldn't be crying right now. I don't know if can you hear crying in the background? Can you guys hear
Huh?
that? Never mind. Okay. My kid is crying in the background.
Oh no, I can
Having a
hear.
little
At least not
she's
me.
having a little meltdown. Um so there's a should and you are not that should. And that frustrates you. So I think if you want to get to the bottom of this, we have to start with like, do you remember a time when you were younger where you felt like you should be something and you weren't that thing?
Um, I think okay, to give some context, basically like um my parents immigrated from Morocco to Canada when I was like about 4, and I think my whole life I've kind of just like grown up with this feeling that I am like very indebted to them for that because they did it to give me and my brother a better life. And so a lot of my life has just been like trying to make my parents proud, and that's something that means a lot to me, and that also goes hand in hand with the like, doing the right thing sort of
Mhm.
thing. And that's why like things that I generally feel like my parents would disapprove of, like I just can't bring myself to do. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, like I just like generally try to stay away from stuff that could ever result in them being disappointed in me. But I think also that has probably prevented me from ever like going out and experiencing much in life. I also feel like now I'm very indebted to like my community and to my viewers for giving me the life that I have. And so frequently it just feels like I have all these voices like telling me what they expect from me. And also the problem solver in me has created like a system around me that depends on me. Like as you continue your years in being a content creator, you start like delegating things. You get a PA, you have an agent, you have a manager, you have blah blah blah. And so I feel like there's all these people that rely on me to do what I need to do in order for them to do what they need to do. And I guess recently I've just been thinking a lot about all those things, and maybe it's starting to feel a bit overwhelming.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like the should and should nots come from a lot of different angles. And even now doing this in front of you, although like, I am trying not to look at chat and have this just be an experience between us two, it's very nerve-wracking because it feels like anything I do, there will be like some way to twist it negatively, and that is another reason why crying is so frustrating because it's like I mean, being vulnerable in and of itself isn't easy, but also everyone that's just gonna think that I am
Uh,
like fake crying this or
Iman,
doing this for some
are
reason.
you
My brain is just zooming.
how far are you from perfect?
Very.
Do you want to be perfect?
Um, I don't think that's possible
Why do you strive for it?
because does life make sense any other way than to try to be, I guess, your best self?
That's your problem, my friend. Yeah, because here's the crazy thing, okay? I'm going to say something you may not make any fucking sense. You are perfect. What do you think about that?
I feel like that's the kind of thing like you say to someone and you're like, everyone's unique the way they are. Like you're perfect the way you are. I guess that's what I hear.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because I don't think you understand that. But I want you to just think about this. And I do say shit like that, but it's not because I'm trying to be positive. It's not positive. I'm not trying to prop you up. I'm trying to talk about what you are now, not what you could be. Like the only thing that exists in this world is what is. Right? So like take a look at your tissue. Look at your tissue. Is it a good
Pepe
tissue?
hands.
Is it a good tissue or a bad tissue or is it
It's a good tissue.
but why? It's like got some gunk on it, right? It's like wet. It can't absorb what it should be able to absorb, right?
It did its job.
No, but it's not perfect because if you cry more, if someone else cries more, like they can't use that tissue.
I guess.
So the question is, did you do your job? Like you're not perfect, right? I'll accept that. But did you do your job? Did you do what you can do? Did you do the best that you could?
I feel like I don't know what that is. Like
Yeah,
there's no way for me to say like what is enough.
absolutely. And this is the thing you've got to understand. What is enough is exactly what you are. Right? So like when you look at the tissue, you say it's enough. It did what it was supposed to. I'm content with it. Is it completely dry? No. Can it hold its maximum amount of tears? No. But it's held what it's needed to for now. And I don't blame it for not being drier. This is going to sound fucking weird, okay? So if I lose you, let me know. And if you want to cry more, let me know. I'm trying to be a little bit philosophical and help you understand this intellectually because I think your mathematical mind is something we have to leverage. That's one of your strengths. And in the idea, like if you think about an equation, like an equation can only kind of be what it is, right? Actually, that's not true.
Mhm.
That's a bad example.
Because you could derive the equation and you could turn it to another equation.
Yeah, or I mean, we can't say 1 plus 1 is 3 because that's wrong. That actually
Mhm.
reinforces the idea of should and objective truth. So what I actually want you to be able to do is look at your life and say 1 plus 1 is 3. That what you are, even though it's not enough. What the fuck? My Spotify randomly decided to turn on. But sorry about that.
Someone's messing.
So does it, anyway, I'm gonna bring you there hopefully, but I just want you to think about this idea that like the only thing that can exist is like what you are. Like you can't be anything else. Like I can't make you. So like some people like feel like they should be an inch taller, right? And they're like, oh, I'm short, and it's like, yeah, man, I get that. Like I get that you have good reasons for wanting to be taller, or even that you should be taller, or that being short sucks. But like you literally can't be any height but what you are, right? And it's not just height that is determined by like our karma and our biology. It's like circumstance. And you kind of feel like you should do certain things. And like, I just think that that's wrong. I don't think you should do anything. I think that you are, and I know it's shit that I say, but I mean, really, it's not that you're perfect. It's that you are. Like, if I say, the pen is here, and we can say that this pen is perfect because it's exactly where it is. It can't be anywhere else. Like it literally cannot be anywhere else. That existence is.
Yeah.
It's not could be. Like the pen can't be anywhere else. Like it's here and like now it's here. Like it can't be back over here. It is here, right? The possibility of the pen being here is like is not a real thing because I move it over here, but like, where's the pen? It should be here or shouldn't be. It's stupid. It's here. It's here. And in your mind, somewhere along the way, and I get that. I think it's brilliant that you've discovered that it's adaptive for you, that it helps you, it supports you. The strive for perfection is responsible for your success. And
I'm just grabbing stuff.
okay, really,
Sorry.
it's
So sorry.
it's anyway. So I think what we've got to get to is like the bottom of like where you get this idea that you should be something. And my hypothesis, and we'll look for this, okay? So like oftentimes my hypotheses are wrong. So I'll say my first hypothesis is that somewhere along the way you felt like you were something. And you really knew what you were. And that someone important to you told you that you shouldn't be that. And then what happened is like you calibrated away from yourself and towards that thing. And then over time you calibrated towards should. And that's what you kind of like set your zero towards. That became your true north. And then somewhere along the way, like you got left behind. As you became pokey, Iman got left behind.
I can see what you mean and where you're coming from. I think it's kind of hard for me to think of a moment where like I for sure like knew what I wanted to be. I've been thinking about it recently and I do know that for quite some time I kind of tried to separate the two, but mainly in order to like protect myself kind of. Like when people would theorize or say like or try to twist a lot of stuff like publicly, I'd be like, oh, like all they see is like pokey, like they don't know me personally, and like that's kind of how I separated the two to kind of like make myself feel better. But the kind of theory that I came to recently is more so that not that like I know or knew what I wanted to be, but that I just haven't given myself time to like identity develop because I've spent so much time trying to please others.
Yeah, man. That makes perfect sense to me. Like that's like literally what I'm saying is that like so a long time ago, and I think you've been doing this way longer than you realize. Or I mean, I think you do realize it, but like way longer than before. I mean, how long have you been streaming on Twitch?
Like 6 or 7 years.
And is it okay to ask people how old they are on Twitch, or is that not okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
How old are
and
you?
I also think about that. I'm 23 and it's like some of the most formative years of my life I've spent like working to the point of giving myself health issues and just stressing about like pleasing others and what others think and not giving myself any time to just like live life and figure out who the fuck I want to be or am happy with.
Mm. Yeah, man, I think you got that shit figured out all on your own.
But I've only gotten that far, and I've only gotten that far from freaking crying for a week straight.
Good for you. So let's think about this, right? So what I'm hearing is also a subtle should. That I should have spent more time on identity develop.
Yeah, that too. It's not like, oh, I can just like look at myself and be
What
like, oh, this
happens?
is just like
Oh.
how I've ended up, and
It's I mean,
and I am this pen that is like,
so
I don't know.
I feel
Now
I
I'll get
feel like
into more, but
I feel like talking to Pokey and Iman. And I think the point here is that Pokey doesn't let Iman grow. And you're beating yourself up for being Pokey too much. But that in and of itself is Pokey talking.
I
right?
mean, the thing is, like, I don't see it as like I don't know. I don't like see it as an alter ego or really. I don't know. It's really
It's
hard
not
for me to tell because I
it's
feel like the prob. Sorry, go ahead.
no, go for it.
I was just gonna say I feel like that problem solver part of me isn't necessarily like only part of like my work side or I
It
don't know.
no
It's
no
really hard for me to separate like
Yeah, no,
that.
no, no, no. It's not part of your work only. Like, cause this is what I'm saying. Like, your tendency to gravitate towards should started way before you started streaming on Twitch. And I think you're spot
Yeah.
on that, I didn't realize how young you were. But I mean, if you started streaming on Twitch at the age of 16, you're damn right that like a lot of identity development is going to be kind of, like stunted, to be blunt, right? So like 16 to 23 is when people go to college, and like I didn't know who the fuck I was until I was like 28.
I'm
And
glad I went to college for at least 2 years.
yeah, good.
So I felt like that was good. Yeah.
And so like so I think it's okay to not know who you are at the age of 23. Like people think that 23 is adults, but like not really. I mean, people are like developmentally younger because I think the challenges that we face are like far more complex. What our psychology and brains are assaulted by on a daily basis growing up has changed. Like it's not like we're living in the woods and like it's the same fucking shit every day. It's like it's issues of identity and confusion and what the world is. Like my grandmother did not know that other places existed. Like it's a bizarre thing to think about, but like she like literally did
Mhm.
not know that other locations were real things. Like she grew up in her village and she had heard of
Mhm.
places, but they were like Neverland or stories. Like Bombay was like a place that people went, like it was a story. Like she hadn't conceptualized that it was actually a geographical location where there are stairs and doorways and cars and people, and that the world
Mhm.
was like a place. It was like a myth. But now the world has become a real place, and like even compared to 20 years ago, the opinions that you had to deal with were like localized to the people that you met.
Mhm.
But enter the internet, where now you can get judged by hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people. And you used to deal with the judgment of the kids in school.
Yep.
It's like the same 30 fucking kids. And
I
now
worry
you have
so
millions of
much.
people who
I
can
worry
judge you.
so much about preteens and teens in this day and age
Yeah, they're
and their
fucked.
mental health. Yeah. Yeah.
They're really it's bad, and it's gonna get worse. And anyway, but so this is the thing, Iman. I think even the way that you beat yourself up for not having developed your identity is another should. So we got to get to the bottom of the should. And you're absolutely right that should is adaptive. Okay. So oddly enough, I feel like I'm well equipped to help you because the people that I work with in my day job, I think, have very similar problems to you, which is that they've flagellated themselves into success. And they're like, they wake up one day and they're you're apparently Twitch royalty, and then in their case they're like managing director at like Goldman Sachs, or they're like a physician at Harvard Medical School, and
I
and they
work with
wake up,
them.
huh?
Nothing.
And they say the same thing. They're like, but I am all of these things. Like, why do I deserve? Like, why am I crying? Like, I shouldn't be fucking crying. And then I tell them like, well, maybe you should like stop flagellating yourself and stop trying to be better. And they're like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what
Yeah.
that looks like. That's
That's me, Smiley.
yeah, right? Like I don't know what acceptance, and this is another one of those, you know, yoga calendar flower kind of things. Like accept yourself, man.
I know.
No, but like you literally like that's not like a thing on a yoga calendar. That's something that you literally it's like the pen, right? Like you can't be anything but what you are. It's like silly. Like you can't be an inch taller. You can't be more developed in terms of an identity perspective. You can't be any of those things because you are what you are. Your past is what it is. If we're talking about engineering and mathematics, like if you build a structure in a particular way, that structure can either bear a weight or it can't bear a weight. Like you can't, what it should bear is actually completely irrelevant because either it's
Mhm.
capable or it's
It
incapable.
does
It's
or
a
doesn't.
fact.
Yeah.
But you don't view yourself as a fact. You view yourself as a fiction. You view yourself as a should. You're not a building. You're an architectural diagram. You're like a building who looks at an architectural diagram of like a different building and says, I should be that. But that's like, it's like literally like a building can't be anything but what it is.
But I also feel like I'm a building, but I am the architect of the building that is me, so I can change myself to ideally be what I would like to be. But I know that isn't really feasible in a lot of aspects, but in some of them
No,
it
but because
is.
it's a reasonable, oh shit. So it's a reasonable thing to think because you've done that, right? You've
Mhm.
been a building who
In
says, I
some
want to
way.
be one story taller, and then you figured out how to like get people to build you another story. And then you said, I want to be one story taller, and you figured out how to do that. And you figured out how to do that. So the funny thing is that you've actually given yourself evidence to believe that you can be something that you are not. And I still think this goes all the way back to like, I mean, so I'm thinking about how to say this. Tell me about your indebtedness to your parents.
Can I also mention one other thing?
Sure.
When I think about um I guess all of the stuff we've talked about, namely, I guess my lack of like giving myself a break over all these years. Maybe one of the reasons I cry so much is like I feel like I'm mourning over that.
Absolutely.
Like it's so weird. I don't really know how to explain it, but like
No, that's a great way of explaining it.
I feel really sad for myself.
Yes, absolutely. Because, Iman, I'm
Like
telling you,
myself at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
it's
Like yeah.
that's a brilliant. This is what I'm telling you. Like, so I'm going to go back to this idea, right? So, like, there was Iman when you were very young,
Mhm.
and there was something that you knew you were, and I'm not talking about like you knew you were, wanted to be an engineer, like, and then like there was like something that someone told you, like, hey, you should be something different, and then you went towards that thing, and then like a little voice inside you said like, hey, that's not who I am, and then this other voice said, no, no, but that's not who you should, like, you shouldn't be what you are, you should be what these people tell you to be. And then you went further and further and further and further and further away from that voice. And I think what you feel right now is pity. You feel pity towards yourself. You're mourning because like there was like a little girl in there who like had feelings that were completely fair and legitimate, and Pokey told her to shut the fuck up and sit in the closet because we have shit to do. And so
Yeah.
mourning is exactly what you have to do. And let's just think about what mourning means, right? Because mourning is not about should. Like, let's just think about what is mourning. If we think about acceptance and should, what does mourning mean? When do we mourn? I know it's kind of weird.
When something has like died or passed.
Yeah, but just think about that. Like when I'm so my dad passed away a few years ago, and I remember like mourning
Sorry.
him. Yeah, it's all good. I'm cool with it. He's cool with it. We're set.
I'm
Um,
happy to hear that.
yeah, yeah. So I mean I appreciate the sentiment, but we're good. So if we think about that, like if I'm mourning, do I think to myself he should still be alive today?
I guess.
Okay. So when I've completed mourning, do I think that to myself?
You've accepted.
Exactly. Because should is the opposite of mourning. Like should is saying that this person should not be dead, but they
Yeah.
fucking are, right? And so you can tell yourself that they should be alive, and it's like you can say it is a tragedy, and you can say like they should be alive, but like should cannot exist with mourning. And mourning is the process of taking should to acceptance. So you should absolutely be doing that. I think it's awesome that that's the way that you feel because that means you're doing it right.
Okay.
So give yourself a pat on the back. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. Good job, Iman. A
Oh, I
plus.
don't want validation from that though. I don't
I
want validation from just feeling like I'm doing what I should be doing.
I think
Also.
everyone's aware of that. right? So the way, so it's
But
good
I'm
that like,
I'm
so
glad it makes sense in some way, because I
yeah,
hadn't really
because I
thought
mean,
about it that way until now.
yeah, because I'm giving you the A plus and I'm laughing at it, and then you're noticing the absurdity of it, and then you're saying I don't want validation from it, and I'm giving you a caricature, a hyperbole of validation because I'm giving you a fucking A plus, which is what you wanted all your life. And
Yeah.
therein we see that the beast within you is fed. So Iman,
You
let
know,
me
I've
ask.
said this a lot of times about my frustrations with content creation, which is that there is no rubric. And like, you know, my whole life I've just loved school, and it's just all about rubrics, and finally feeling like, okay, when I score a 90 or above, like that means I did good, I did my job, and I can go play video games and rest at night. But, you know, when I'm stuck in a position where there is like, numbers don't stop. There is no "you've done enough." And I don't know how to set that for myself at all. Even though, and I am doubly, if that's how you pronounce the word, or doubly frustrated with myself, because I
No,
know
no,
that
it's
this is
doubly.
something that I've been thinking. Okay, perfect. I'm doubly frustrated with myself because it's something that I've known for a long time, but it's just a problem that like I don't know how to solve.
Yeah, so it's actually doubly, and the way that you solve it is by using the word doubly. Is that you're not allowed to say doubly. So like
Okay.
literally, really,
I kind of
literally,
like the way doubly sounds.
good. You should fucking say it that way because it's wrong.
I'm English was the second language I learned, and there's so many words that I just like can't properly pronounce like that, so my bad, but
No, 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 no. You're missing the point.
no, I'm
English is
getting
the
the
second.
point, but I know.
Let me repeat back to you what you said, and you tell me which statement is wrong. Right? You correct your homework, so you get an A plus. English is the second language I learned. It's hard for me to pronounce all words correctly.
Mhm.
My bad. Where's the problem statement, Iman?
Uh the my bad, or the whole thing? I probably
No,
don't really need, I don't know.
no, no,
Just the
no, no, no.
my bad?
Just the my bad. Right? You're
Okay.
doing it wrong. Go fuck yourselves. I'm doing it wrong. Right? Doubly. Like that's how you learn it. Right? By telling that part of you that's like, hey, you should be something else. You're like, nah, I'm gonna do this today. And that's what acceptance is. It's, and we can go back and talk about your past, but like, that's what you've got to do. You've got to think about this. Like think about the thing that you should be doing,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's like you pick something and then you don't do it. And then you look at that beast, because here's the thing, like what happens when you feed a beast?
It gets bigger and
Absolutely.
stronger, and then
Yep.
it wants more food.
Absolutely. Beautiful. I
I never
couldn't say.
really thought about it that way.
And what have you been doing to should your entire life? Feeding it, and it
Stuffing it
grows
full.
and it grows and it grows, and now you've hit your breaking point. Because this thing has grown so big, it's like a wolf that's the size of an elephant. You just can't feed it enough anymore. And it's hungry, and it's saying, Iman, it's not enough. I'm still hungry. You should be better. And you're like, how much better do you want me to be? And it's like, I don't know, but give me more food. Find some way to make yourself better. That's the compulsion. And you're like, okay, I fixed my relationships, and it's like, I want more. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna become a successful Twitch streamer. It's like, I want more. Okay. And then you put yourself up on the altar of sacrifice. And you say, I should be better, because you fixed everything else in the outside world. And then you give it yourself. And you say, oh, I should be better. And then it's like, good. Now I'm satisfied, because you're never going to feel better, right? You can always feed it yourself. You can always find something about yourself that isn't good enough. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And the way that you stop is you stop feeding the beast. And then it's going to hurt, because it's like it's going to feel hungry, and hunger doesn't feel good.
Mhm.
And then you sit with that. And so I don't know what it is, but like there's got to be 1,000 things that you should be doing. Like, what are they?
I should probably like call my parents more. I should make more content. I should like diversify. I should make sure I'm responding to these emails and these projects and these sponsor liaisons and blah 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 blah. And on top of that, there are so many people that like rely on me doing these things. Not only that, but they require a lot of direction from me. But also I hired them to do the stuff, so it only really makes sense. And it's just like an endless list.
Yeah, so what is one thing that you cannot do today?
I don't know.
Okay.
How do you choose one?
No, I mean, I don't know.
Um, I I won't respond to work stuff.
Good for you. How does that feel?
I mean, to be honest, I have been having these like episodes of just like indulging in not doing shit for a solid like 12 hours. Or like I guess 24 hours if you include sleep. And
How does
that
that?
will like feel really nice in the moment. Sort of. A bit guilty. I
There it
struggle
is.
with a lot of that guilt.
Yep. I was
And it just
surprised.
like it'll just like flip flop back and forth between like how long can I go without feeling guilty? It
Yeah,
feels so good to just play video games for no reason with no one watching. And then at some point it's like, I'm really guilty. I need to like do all this stuff.
that's what needs to change, right? So like what you need to do is don't flip-flop. Don't flip-flop, balance. The problem here is that you've got a seesaw.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, Iman needs some time to herself. And then Poki's like, no, you don't get fucking time. And Iman's like, but I feel good. And Poki's like, no, no, no. You guys, like, you need to be in the middle, right? You need to say like, okay, I'm going to do this for a while. And the dog that's hungry, you're going to tell the dog like, hey man, I know it's going to hurt. You're going to get fed tomorrow. And I'm not going to neglect you. Like, Poki deserves a seat at the table too. Like, she deserves to be there, and she's helped you out a lot, and you're not trying to tell her that she's a bad person. But at the same time, like, Iman needs some time to herself.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you can sit with both of those, right? Like, you can sit with, like, I am not going to live up to my responsibilities, and I'm going to feel guilty, and that's okay. I don't have to give in to the guilt. And I also don't have to try to conquer it. Like, this is the problem that people have, is they try to conquer their negative emotions. And you started like from the fucking get-go. First words out of your mouth. How do I not cry?
Fix this.
How are we doing?
We're okay. We're on the right track.
How did we do that?
Just talking.
No,
Letting it
it's not just talking. Incorrect answer. Now, how do you feel? Notice. How do you feel?
scrambling for correct answer, trying to compute.
Good. Sit with that shit. You're not going to find it. Anything you say, I'm going to say you're wrong.
That's good. This is the kind of like I guess like challenge. There's a word I'm looking for that I can't find, but it doesn't matter. This is the kind of like back and forth that I feel is actually conducive or constructive to what I need.
I'm trying to figure out how you're squirrely even with that. It's squirrely. There's squirreliness in there. Cause see, damn it, Iman. No. See, even now you're saying, but I'm like, that statement is saying I'm doing the thing that I should be to grow to be a better person.
I mean, this does feel nice though.
I know it feels nice, but like, do you see how deep it is? It's like, even then, the reason you're okay with it because beneath all of the discomfort, you're actually growing. You're actually moving towards should.
I think also it just kind of feels nice to not cry for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I think
How
I'll
do we
just
do?
focus on that and not so much think about, oh, this is going in a good way or whatever.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the pen here. You're like, oh, like that pen's actually like, we're fine with the pen being here. It doesn't need to be anywhere else. And you're absolutely right that that feels good. And so now I'm going to have a crazy, crazy thought for you. It's not because we're talking. It's not because you're venting. It's because you are being where you are. That's why you're not crying. And that's why you're laughing. And this is what Buddha discovered. He called it bliss. And people don't even know what that means. Being where you are is bliss. And being where you, thinking about where you should be is suffering.
Oh, that's so true. Mhm.
So you're not getting better at this. You can't get better at this. You can't level up. You can just do it or not do it in a given moment. And no amount of doing it before, this is actually untrue, but no amount of doing it, because your brain can change and there's neuroscience involved
Mhm,
and all that
mhm.
shit. But just pretend for a moment, okay? Work with me. No amount of doing it is going to change the fact that you have to do it today and now. Like, this is the battle that you have to fight, right? Is like, you have to say, like, okay, there's a part of me that wants to be better, and like, I'm just going to talk now. I'm going to do the thing in the here and now. Because if you think about all of those shoulds are about the future. They're not about now. They're about, like, I should do this so that this person can do this. I should do this so that this person can do this. And then I have to do this. And then I should call my parents more because why should you call your parents more? Because they could die one day. And if they died one day, and then I'd be guilty because I didn't call them enough.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's my brain. Except like, for another like 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you get exhausted of that. And the brain's like, okay, next thing. Next thing to beat ourselves up over. Beat ourselves up, beat ourselves up, beat ourselves up. And you're absolutely right that this is instrumental to your success. Absolutely right. Because unless you beat yourself up, so you have a high degree of neuroticism and conscientiousness from the big five personality kind of, if you know what any of that shit is. But what that means is that, like, you're basically like a med student. You're like a fucking try hard med student. I hate these kids. And
Okay, no, I was not a med student. I was an eng student, and there's a difference, okay?
all the same. STEM is all the same. All the STEM fields.
Disagree, but okay.
All
But I do get where you're coming from. If I didn't go into eng, I would have gone into med
I know.
anyway, so.
You don't have to tell me that.
Hey,
Moroccan immigrants coming to the US or Canada, like, come on.
I've actually been thinking about that so much. I've literally
This girl's
not
gonna go
only
to med
been like
school.
daydreaming, but just regular dreaming, fantasizing about like going back to school.
Please tell me you're not going to become a doctor.
No, I don't think I could become a doctor.
Okay, thank
But
God.
yeah, just like going back to school and I know I shouldn't be maybe it is not ideal to look or to be thinking of it that way.
No. You don't get to just change the words and still have the thoughts.
I know. I was just hoping you wouldn't call me out on it.
No, I mean, you knew I was going to call you out. You weren't subtle at all. But that's okay. That's you actually calling attention to it, which is fine. That's beautiful. That's what you should be doing. You should notice. That's you noticing it. That's how you
I think
get better.
it's my brain's way of, again, trying to problem solve. Like, oh, I'm not happy with the way my life is. How about I go back 3 years when I was in university doing engineering and whatever. Maybe then I would be
Well, I mean,
happy. But I know. Yeah.
No, I don't know that that's just problem solving, because that could be Iman. That could be Iman saying, I actually want to go back and have some of those experiences that I missed out on because I deserve them. Maybe it's problem solving. Maybe it's that. I don't know. What do you think it is?
I think when it's specifically in regards to like going back to school, it was just like that sentiment of like life being simpler because I could live by a rubric. But I do think in general, when I just think about the amount of time that I've been streaming, I think about those. Oh, also quarantine has really made me think about, I guess, all the experiences I probably missed out on, especially because I had a lot of traveling plans for this year. And I felt like that was one of the ways that I could simultaneously do my job, but experience new things and feel like I'm like growing as a person or allowing myself to develop some sort of identity that I'm happy with or experience good and bad. And now feeling like I guess I can't get to do that, it further imposes the fact that I really haven't gotten to in the past. And then I just feel sad.
I'm gonna think for a second. So
Okay, I'm
sometimes I
gonna
have these.
get my cat.
Okay,
Sorry, hold on.
this is one of those moments. Can she hear me? I guess not. So I can say this. I'll just wait for her. This is one of those moments. Can you hear me? No? Okay.
Huh?
This is one of those moments. I have these moments sometimes when I'm talking to people, and generally speaking in my day job, but remember, this isn't psychiatry. Um,
Okay.
so I have these moments where someone says something important and profound that I just have this emotional reaction that it's going to sound like a complete asshole. And I couldn't care less.
Okay. That good. Yeah.
I mean, I get that you had all these ideas about yourself and like, but even then, see, like it's so subtle. Because it's the same shit. It's like you're trying to figure out how to be a better you.
Hmm.
And you're like, oh, like had this like frankly it infuriates me actually a little bit when you think about like, I was going to travel and still work, but like you're still feeding that same beast. You're trying to find, you're not, that's not actually going to,
It
I
was
mean, it's
like,
going to help.
the little Iman in me was like, I found a compromise.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, this compromise was taken from me.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that you don't deserve a compromise. You deserve, Iman needs to get her 7 years back. Like traveling and streaming and stuff. Like, I'm not saying don't do it, right? Because that sounds wonderful and fun and all that good stuff. It sounds like a great idea. And at the same time, like, don't confuse yourself that's, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but it's not the route.
Hmm.
Like, the route is that, like, you should be able to travel and not work.
I will have a lot of people telling you otherwise.
That's fine. But then we get back to like, okay, so like, oh, what are you telling me, Iman? Are you telling me that you're living your life for others? Huh.
Yes, Smiley. But to be fair, that's also like where I derive the most satisfaction,
Okay, fine. So I
either
don't think,
helping or, yeah.
yeah, so I don't think that you should ignore others. And I think that's part of your dharma. So dharma is the Sanskrit word for duty. So I think that I too have to live my life for others. I don't think I can just stop streaming now. And I think that that's fine. But at least I acknowledge, and I think this is what you've got to think about, is like, it's okay to do things for other people, but you should like, the difference is not that you don't do things for other people. It's that you devalue yourself for maybe not wanting to do those things. There's a huge difference between saying, I'm going to eat, I'm sitting there for getting my afternoon coffee. I used to have this problem all the time. I trained at this place called Massachusetts General Hospital. And so I was at MGH and I was sitting there getting my 4 p.m. coffee because I was tired and overworked and all that shit. And I'd get my coffee, and then in the little display case, they have like this like healthy muffin, and they have a chocolate chip cookie. And I would have a struggle every day. And the turned out that the bran muffin was actually pretty good. And so I would eat the bran muffin. And there's a big difference between saying I'm going to eat the bran muffin even though I want the chocolate chip cookie, and saying I should want the bran muffin over the chocolate chip cookie. And I think there's a big difference between doing something because you think it's the right thing to do and because it's a sacrifice, and beating yourself up because that's not something that you don't want to do.
Hmm.
I have no problem with you trying to support your community or do things that are like good for the people on Twitch, which is great. I'm behind that 100%. But I want you to be honest with yourself about like, is that actually what you want? And if you say that I'm willing to make the sacrifice, I mean, I make sacrifices all the time. My kid does this thing where once or twice a week she wakes up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. She can't go back to sleep. She comes and, we try to put her to sleep for a while, and then she's like at 5 in the morning, she's like, Daddy, I want noodles. And I wake up, and then I'm up with her from like 4 to 7. And
That's so cute.
it's absolutely, but you try getting woken up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds
Doesn't feel the
cute and it's
best,
wonderful and it makes
but
me
it
feel
sounds
like a
cute.
good dad, and it's also
Mhm.
sucks.
Mhm.
So like I think that the issue here is not that you're not willing to do things that suck. The problem is that I think you beat yourself up for not wanting to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And this still goes back to, I mean, if you want to go back to the Trail of Tears, we got to go back to like what was life like for you as a kid? Because I think that's where all this started.
Mm-hmm.
The indebtedness, like it's crushing. You sounded so heavy when you said that word. And should you be grateful? Like, absolutely. Did they do a lot for you? Absolutely. But I can tell you something else, that if you really want to like get emotional, that they would be, do they know how you feel? It
I
would
don't want
destroy
to
them if they
worry
did.
them.
It would destroy them. And you have to tell them. Because I want you to, what do they want for you, Iman?
They want me to be happy. I know that.
And are you?
Sometimes.
Right? So are you gonna, and this is the other thing is, like, parents are pretty smart, especially your parents.
Mm.
I think they know.
Yeah, maybe. I
Maybe
don't know.
not. Why don't you tell them how you feel?
I don't know. It's even hard to tell you how I feel. I feel like it's very
I'm a fucking stranger
as
on the
I
internet.
said. I feel like it's very convoluted for starters, and also I really I don't like to worry my parents. So even just telling them like, "Oh, I had a bad weekend," or "I'm crying," or whatever it is, like, especially for my mom, that will just worry the heck out of her. She'll be ringing me every like hour, and if anything, that just makes me feel more stressed out. Because now not only am I like sad or stressed or whatever it was initially, but now I am worried about her being worried and also kind of irritated. It's a big mess. It does not feel like the kind of process that yeah, I guess I've just learned to deal with it on my own.
Yeah, so you remember earlier when I was like talking about this moment where you were Iman or you were Pokey, and that you should do something and you didn't do that, and you did the thing that you should do instead of being the person that you wanted to be.
Uh-huh.
I think we just found it. Like, in a weird way, like, this makes perfect sense to me, because what I'm hearing is that you grew up in a household that, and I'm not trying to blame your parents, just every household. I mean, my kids are going to be screwed up. Like, don't delude yourselves about that. They're the children of psychiatrists. I don't know if you guys ever met children of psychiatrists. They're all fucked up. And so it's just an inevitability. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. Like, I mean, you've
Yeah.
done phenomenally well on so many metrics, and like, you're also tortured, and like, we're all tortured. Like, that's how it works,
Mhm.
right? And what I'm also hearing from you is that fundamentally, like, when you expressed your feelings to your mom, it sounds like you felt responsible for worrying her. And then so there was like, I want you to imagine 6-year-old Iman, who's like, I don't feel good, but if mom knows, then she's not going to feel good. And so you were protective of your parents. And by not showing them who, like, you shoved yourself in the closet. There's like crying Iman, and then there's happy Iman. And then what happy Iman did is she took crying Iman and she's like, get into the closet. Mom's coming.
You know how funny the mental image of me telling me to get in the closet is?
That's what you've been doing your entire life, my friend.
Yeah.
I think you should talk to your parents.
Pardon?
I think you should talk to your parents.
Yeah, I maybe.
What hesitation do you have?
I don't know. Like, what do I say?
Okay, I can help you with that. Can I give it a
Mhm.
shot? You let me know how this sounds.
Mhm.
Your parents are still together?
Yeah.
So I think you start by telling them that you're grateful, and you can add whatever story. So tell me their story of moving from Morocco to Canada.
Yeah, when I was 4 in Morocco, it's actually funny. When I was really, really young, I hated like school or like doing anything. Like when I was little, I was real wild. And then we moved to Canada, and then I became an angel. No, I'm just kidding. But I became very like studious. It was all about like doing what I had to do, and yeah, that's just how I grew up. My mom is a teacher, and my dad is like an engineer, but also taught at a university at some point. So they were always like very supportive when it came to school, and that was like, like I would do well in school, I would get validation from them, and that was like my cycle of happiness, I guess. And they were also like pretty strict. It's like, oh, you don't go out late, like no boys in the house, like you don't hang out with too many boys, do this, you do that. A lot of the stuff that, especially in like high school, my friends would do or could do, I wouldn't. But also, like, maybe I had like a little while of like being rebellious or angry about that sort of stuff. But especially in like my later years of high school, I just kind of learned to play around it. Do you know what that is? That a saying that people use outside of gaming?
I don't I don't
I guess.
represent all people outside of gaming, so I don't really know.
Well, do you get what I mean when I say play around
I'm
it?
not sure what you mean by that because I don't know if you mean
Um,
psychologically or like you. Yeah, I don't know.
oh, what I mean is kind of just a work around it in a
But
sense. Like,
work around it
oh,
like
I
in
know.
actuality, like so
No, I don't. Hmm.
so my wife, for example, wasn't allowed to have boys in the house either, but she
Hmm.
what her way the way she worked around it is that she took a ladder and would leave it in the backyard so that people could climb up the ladder and come in through a balcony. That's a workaround. I don't know if that's what you mean.
Um, for me, I mean, like sometimes I would sneak out to like get McDonald's with my friends, but I was never really rebellious.
So what do you mean
So
by workaround?
my workaround was just like I found happiness online via just gaming, and I love to game so much. I was like, oh, well, my parents want me to stay at home all the time anyways, so sure, I guess I will forego whatever else and just stay at home and make friends
Nice.
online. And then when I was 17, that's when I started streaming. And that was also my way of like not being so sad about missing out on other things. It was like, oh, I found something else to do and be excited about. Um,
Yeah, so I'm going to try to keep things practical. I'd love to explore that further, but I'm going to try to keep things practical and hopefully, I know you want a rubric by the time we end this. Um,
no, it's okay.
so no, but I like rubrics too. I feel frustrated if there isn't some sense of progress at the end of it. Um,
Mhm.
so we can be partners in crime there. So thinking a little bit about it, I mean, I would start by just talking to them about like I would start with exactly what you told me, which is that you're grateful and also feel indebted to them that you need to be happy in life. And then you can even add color like you kind of did to mine. Like I don't know, I mean, I'm the son of immigrants as well, so there's like a powerful story there in my mind about sacrifices that they made to come here. And
Mhm.
I mean, my parents were in like had to borrow money for the plane ticket, and because they couldn't afford a plane ticket, and so they came here with like two suitcases in debt. And then
Exactly.
and it's a powerful story of like a lot of sacrifice. And like I remember my dad, when he was like in high school, like they had like singing class. And so he went to singing class like all kids do. And then like his music teacher thought that he was like talented. So he's like, you should come and join like this like club. And so they joined the club and they went to go compete. And they won. So he won first place for singing. And he went home and he showed his my grandmother the trophy. And can you guess what she did or what she said?
She said it probably wasn't important because it wasn't related to academics.
Really close. She snapped it in half, threw it away, smacked him upside the head, and said, "What the fuck are you doing wasting your time? You should be studying more."
Mhm. That's so sad.
Yeah. And so he did study more, and he became a doctor, and he came here in debt. And I know exactly how you feel in terms of that indebtedness. And I know for me, it manifested in a different way because I didn't do a good job. I didn't do well in school. I failed, and I was filled with shame for letting them down. And then eventually I became, as I put it, all Indian parents' dreams and all Indian kids' nightmare by becoming a Harvard trained physician. And then I became that which I loathed. And what I loathed growing up was like my parents would tell me some random person who I'd met once and their accomplishments. They'd be like, so and so's son is like
Yeah.
doing this. Like, oh,
Oh yeah,
it's
it's
like so
always like that.
it's so and so like,
Even Mhm.
yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, many years into content creation, even making like 6 figures plus a year, my mom would still hit me with the, "Are you gonna go back and get your degree next semester?" You know, it's like probably not.
Yeah. But imagine how happy she's going to be, Iman, when you tell her that you're going to go back to school.
Maybe that's subconsciously playing
Oh
a
man,
part, but uh,
boy, that runs deep.
maybe.
But going back to how to talk to your, I mean, I think you got to talk to them and just tell them that, like, I'm grateful and I feel indebted and I feel like I need to be happy, but there's a part of me that isn't,
Mhm.
and hear what they have to say. And it's unclear what you're gonna get. Like, maybe your mom will start breaking down in tears, and then you can break down in tears, and then you guys can
Aw.
cry and all that stuff. And and
No.
and yeah, and then then this is the hard part, right? You've got to sit with that. And then you've got to ask her, Mom, why are you crying? And then she's going to say something just because you're suffering, and then I'm going to say, well, I'm crying because you're crying, and then you guys have to figure out, like, what are y'all going to do about that?
Oh, that's hard to imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, Iman, I think you're playing a solo player game. You got to start treating your family as party members instead of NPCs. I'm serious. Right? Like, you're carrying all of this weight. Like, I can't tell you, just the thought, like, if I had a daughter in your situation, it would be so hard. I would just be livid that she was not telling me these things, because that's what I'm here for. Right? I don't want her to protect my feelings. I want to be able to do something about them. Like, when my kid wakes me up at 5 in the morning, like, of course I'm furious, but it's also like, I'm glad you woke me up because you're 2.5 years old and you can't make yourself instant noodles. I don't want you to
Yeah, but I'm
try.
23 years old.
Huh?
Yeah, but I'm 23 years old, and so it feels like I am old enough to the point that, like, I should be able to deal with these things
There
and,
it
like,
is.
protect my parents.
There it is. Where did you hear the word?
Should.
Yeah.
The correct answer, should.
Yep. There it is. Good.
Yeah.
But here's, you shouldn't. Like, I mean, I still rely on my mom for shit. Like, you know, she still tries to do my laundry. And it's like, it's weird. I mean, you want to talk about being like not independent. I'm 37, ostensibly professionally successful and independent, and I live with 4 women who all in some capacity take care of me. You want to talk about, I don't know what Moroccan culture is like, but in Indian culture, like, men are incapable of taking care of themselves. And I'm so incapable of taking care of myself that, like, 1 isn't enough, 2 isn't enough, 3 isn't enough.
You need
I I
4.
I had to breed a couple to get my needs met. And
Nice.
it's a beautiful and scary thing the day that you have a daughter that's old enough that can do something for you.
Aw,
And it's like wonderful, but it's also like, hey, can you go get me that thing from upstairs? And they're like, absolutely, Dad. And then they go and they get it. And they're like, yeah, okay, I
cute.
can get used to this. But you got to tell them, Iman, and you got to sit with her like worry and anxiety. And this is where the problem solver in you needs to recognize that like part of your reluctance to deal with feelings probably comes as modeled behavior from her. And can you guys sit with the idea that like there's parts of you that are unhappy, but like your life is good, and you need to share with them too. Like don't give them one seesaw, like one part of the seesaw. The problem here is that you're only giving them one half of the seesaw. Give them both. They'll be able to handle it.
I don't
Talk
know.
about how. Okay, maybe they can't. I don't know.
I mean, I think they could. I just think it's so hard for me to, I guess, like guide them along that path.
I know, Todd.
Like every time I mention something is not well, you guys don't need to freak out. Like I am not dying if like I sneeze once. Um you don't need to call me every 2 hours if I'm having a bad day. Like, it's fine. I don't know.
So now I'm confused
Mhm.
for two reasons. The first is you say, "What do I say to them?" And because you seem to have a really good answer. The second thing is you say, "I should know better," and it sounds like you absolutely fucking do. You're spot on, right? You need to sit with them and teach them because you are an adult, actually. That is the statement of an adult. Is in recognizing that like you need to explain to your parents and say like, so now I can give you some language around this, okay? So take notes.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when I tell you that I'm unhappy or I cry, what do you guys think is going on? And what do you think you have to do about it? And just explore that with them, which is going to be a really confusing question. Like I had a 2.5 hour conversation with my mom the other day about like some really basic stuff about like understanding your insides, because she just doesn't like. I'm assuming that Indian and Moroccan culture, because I understand a little bit about Moroccan culture, are like pretty similar
Mhm.
in terms of you have your option of STEM field, no boys in the house.
You could
And
also perhaps be a lawyer if you want to be a little bit edgy.
yeah, so in our case it wasn't edgy. My dad said I have an older brother,
Mhm.
and he said that one of y'all is going to be a doctor and one of y'all is going to be a lawyer. And what I used to say in my med school interviews when they're like, "Why do you want to be a doctor? Like, what brings you here?" And I would say, "Well, yeah." So I tell them that my dad told me that one of y'all has to be a doctor and one of y'all has to be a lawyer. And my brother's older, and he got to choose first, and he went to law school. So here I am.
Yeah.
And so talk to them about what do they think, and like, and then ask them explicitly like and I think you should share like everything that you're sharing with us, right? Which is that you sometimes hesitate to share things with them because of how much it hurt them. Tell them that.
Mhm.
And say like, what do you guys think about that? And then like, is it okay for me to like tell you that I'm not doing okay? And like, I know it hurts you, but like, I'm gonna be okay. Like, I'm not
Mhm.
so worried about it.
Oh, you know how like um how they say if you have a child, you shouldn't be overly protective of them, especially when they're like super young, and be too scared of them getting sick, because the only way you build your immune system is by getting sick every now and then when you're young, right? I feel like I guess that's what happened to me in terms of just like general life experiences.
Absolutely. Beautifully put. And am I supposed to be not doing that with my kids?
Am I supposed to be saying that? What you said is wrong. No,
No. I
I'm
mean,
just trying to. Wait, what?
I was just thinking, am I raising my kids wrong?
Oh, I don't
Because
know how you're raising your kids.
I don't know either. It's really confusing.
It's okay. You'll find out in like 10 to 20 years. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely. That's the approach I'm taking, right?
Yeah. I guess maybe that's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes sense. I think you are overly protected. And by overly protected, I think what you've been protected from, or what you've been insulated against, is to a certain degree your own feelings and emotional expression. And so you'll be thrilled. You can tell your mom, Iman, that I spoke with a guy who happens to be a psychiatrist, and he said I was just like all of the middle-aged, you know, Middle Eastern and or South Asian or Asian attorneys. I'm just like them. and that I don't know how to
Perfect.
emotionally express myself or connect with you guys on an emotional level. And I'm also very financially and professionally successful. And I'm deeply unhappy. I mean,
You
I don't
can't
think you're
have
deep.
it
I
all.
don't think you're deeply unhappy, but I think you've got to connect. And this goes back to loneliness. Like, I don't understand, I think you, speaking of things that you've missed out on and things that you owe yourself, I don't believe that you need to have an NPC relationship with your parents. Like, that's like, I mean, it sounds like you're alone from them. They're NPCs and you have scripted interactions with them. It's not like, it's like you walk up to them and it's like, take your pick. I am doing well. And then she responds with, when are you going to college? And then it's like literally like a fucking NPC. You go up to them and then you right click them and then they say that like, Iman, like, what do you think about going to college next semester? And like in games, you can have dialogue with people. You can have the same fucking dialogue over and over and over again. And those are the relationships we have with our parents.
I do want to say though that like uh, I also feel bad because it's not entirely their fault. I also feel like and I mean whatever about fault. Also, it just makes me really sad because um like I left Canada 3 years ago and I moved out from home at 18 for university anyways, but I also feel like it's uh exponentially more difficult to do these kinds of things with that considered and with like language barrier to some extent. Um, because I feel like that kind of thing would translate so much better in person. And I was actually I was planning on visiting them a week before the quarantine started. And I
Hmm.
was hoping to like perhaps get to tackle certain issues, but then that didn't really get to happen either. And I can't tell whether I'm like putting it off by wanting to do it in person or if like I really think that that would make a difference. But I guess it's just something that I feel has also stunted my ability to do that with them.
Sure. Do you meditate?
Yes, I was doing really good up until 2 weeks ago and then I started crying a lot. There might be a connection.
There might be a connection. You're right. So Iman, I think you're very spiritually adept. I think you have a mind that's well designed for spiritual exploration. So, and I
Thank you.
really would recommend that you continue to not necessarily that you have to meditate, but I think so. A couple of things. So now we talk about karma. Familiar with karma,
Uh,
yay,
could you
nay?
just
Sure,
define it yourself so
sure.
I know? Mhm.
So, um, so when I look at you, I see a certain, like you were dealt a certain hand in life.
Hmm.
And I think that the hand that you were dealt is sort of like geared towards spiritual growth. And what there are a couple of things that I look for in people who are like prone towards kind of spirituality, and everyone is prone to their own kind of spirituality. I think you're prone to a very particular kind that's actually like Buddha's, because I think you have a lot of the struggles that he had, like literally, right? So if we think about what worked for him, like if we think about his starting position in a particular game, like your starting position is actually somewhat similar. And so his solutions may apply, like, if you, I don't know what kind of games you play, but if you have a particular start, then there's like a particular strategy that's like optimized for, winning.
Yeah.
And so I think that the other thing is you're very self-reflective. I don't know if you've done therapy or other kinds of activities where you kind of do this kind of stuff, but your ability to catch your thoughts and notice what you're doing. For example, when you said, I don't know if that's like me just making excuses for myself that I want to do this in person and I want it to be perfection. Maybe that's my perfectionism. That amount of self-reflectiveness, I think, is very helpful for a particular kind of spiritual growth, which is the kind that I like, which is
Mm.
not so much about God or devotion or anything like that. It's really about understanding like how you work. It's actually a system of engineering. It's not like religion. I'm serious. So I mean, what I think about it as is like mechanisms of the mind.
Mhm.
And in your case, you have a particular thing called a samskar. A samskar is like sort of a ball of undigested emotion or like a background program that's kind of running in your mind that
Mhm.
flagellates you for not being good enough, that drives you forward, but at the same time is just like a process that's running on its own. And like, processes that are running on their own can be like good for our computer, but then also there are some times where we need like control alt delete and like end task. And I don't know if you're
Yeah.
a filthy Mac user, but um, it,
Oh
okay,
no.
thank God.
Disgusting.
Um, Also an eternal struggle between myself and my wife. But
Mm,
anyway, I think you've got this thing, right? And I think you're able to see it, like you're able to see the should.
mhm.
And so I think that's good. And I would just recommend that you continue pursuing spirituality in like a pretty concrete way, because that's what you like to do. And really kind of focus on this stuff, because I think you'll get a lot of yield out of it. But in terms of, should it be done better in person? I think, yeah. Like, I think, could you be avoiding? Absolutely. But I think it also, being able to hug, I don't know if you hug your parents, but
Of course.
I mean, some brown people don't, right? Some Asian people don't.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah. So like for example, my parents never kissed me.
Mhm.
Like it's weird. Like I had to like when I was 18 or 19, I was like, I'm going to start kissing my mom on the head, because I
Aw.
didn't know what to do. And now
Mhm.
I'm all about the kissing with my kids.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so I think that physical distance may actually be important, and you just have to decide, like, this is also where I think you're trying to set up the perfect conversation, which now that's a problem, right? Because like you shouldn't
Mhm.
let perfect get in the way of like starting a conversation.
Just doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you want to do it, but that too is like karma. So this is your karma. So I didn't even explain what karma is, but karma is kind of your circumstances, is one way to think about it.
Mhm.
And the way that I think about it is it's really just the principle of cause and effect. So like, if um so if I walk into a bathroom that's flooded,
Mhm.
that is a circumstance, but at the same time, if I turn my bathtub on and put the stopper in and let it fill up and overflow, like that circumstance is created by something that I did. So
Mhm.
now your karma, like COVID is part of your karma because it's a circumstance. It's something in the external environment. It's not something that you control. And at the same time, like karma is kind of tricky because it's sort of like you can shape your environment over time. So you do control your environment to a certain degree, but you also don't control your
Mhm.
environment to a certain degree. And for you to think a little bit about like right now, so you can't have that conversation during COVID. So maybe there's some kind of, so now do you want to have it, or are you not going to have it?
Yeah, I'm really unsure.
Yeah. So I think about it.
Mhm.
How are we doing in terms of untangling, by the way?
I think good. I'm crying a bit less, so I want to assume good. But in general, I mean, going into this conversation has, again, being reflective. I feel like most of my life I've been so busy being grateful for my parents and the fact that they've, for the most part, been like very loving and supportive, that I would have never even thought that anything in regards to my relationship with them would be unhealthy. I guess I just put it upon myself to just deal with the quirks. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good way to put it.
so it's nice to, I guess, delve into that.
Yeah, I mean, so dealing with the quirks is interacting with an NPC,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, kind of.
Like you accept them as who they are. Like if you
Hmm.
really want to understand acceptance, think about the way that you approach an NPC, because they're not going to change, right? And you just accept them for who they are. It's
As good
beautiful.
of an example as that is, that makes me feel so bad.
Yeah,
Yeah. But also, like, it was, I thought I was doing it for them, you know?
you are doing it for them, and that happens to be the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, probably.
Because like the whole point is that like you should do things for them and they should do things for you. But your
Hmm.
relationship with them is one-sided, and like that's a problem. And I can assure you as a parent that like, I want a two-sided relationship with my kids. Like that's what they want.
Hmm. Yeah.
And just think about how happy they're going to be when you share with them that you're unhappy and then you share with them that you're happy, right? And they want to help you get there. And
That's true.
anyway. Is there something like in terms of the tangled ball that we kind of didn't get to, or something that you feel like is left unaddressed?
Sure. Could I go to the bathroom real quick,
Yeah,
though?
sure.
Thank you.
I guess I'll check Twitch chat while we're waiting. Or maybe I should go pee too. Okay. No, I don't really like beer. I don't like drinking. I gotta eat something first. What is Cal Niranjan? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna get food. I like talking to Iman. She's cool. Boy, is she hard on herself. Yeah, but I mean, not while I'm talking to her, right? That's like really disrespectful, guys. I don't I don't mind. I'm gonna drink on stream, but like, it's not fair to her. Like, you think about it. Like, if you guys came on stream, like, would you want me to be lucid, or would you want me to be like, inebriated? Right. So it's not that I don't mind being festive, but you know, let's think about why we do this, right? So the stream isn't about. I know it's bizarre. It's not about entertainment, right? Like, so the one way, the thing that screws me is when I start thinking about anything except what the stream is actually for, and the stream is to help the person that we're talking to. Nothing more, nothing less. And anything else that happens in terms of donations and stuff, which is amazing and I'm grateful for, don't get me wrong, but like, that's not why we do it, right? You guys should donate and support us because of what we do with the person that we're talking to. And also donate because you think it's entertaining, because we'll do that from time to time. But like, let's not forget what our primary dharma is to help the person there. Because when we help that person, like, think about it, right? Because it's AoE healing. So if I like, if I miscast a heal, like, not only does it not help that person, but then it like doesn't help any of you guys. Like, I don't know how anyone is helped by me being a drunken asshole on stream. Entertained, sure. That's something that we're willing to do, and sometimes it's important to laugh. But like, how many of you guys have relationships with your parents where you guys treat them like NPCs? And the second thing is where they treat you like an NPC. Right? We haven't even gotten there. But like, the other thing is, like, I mean, I was just getting on a roll talking to myself, which I sometimes do. But the other thing, which is kind of tricky here, is that, you learn how to treat them like NPCs in a particular way, like, because that's how they treat you. Because they didn't see Iman, they saw Pokey, engineering major. In a couple of years, it's going to be, I mean, I don't know what your relationship status is, but like, it's going to go from no boys to like, why aren't you married yet? Like, that's what happens. Like, one day.
Flip a switch. So
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
And you're 23, so you may be a bit young, but I give it 1 to 2 years. And if it hasn't started and you don't have a boyfriend, then they're going to.
And it's not like a boyfriend. It's like, single now? Okay, marriage when? Child when?
Yep.
Yeah.
See, that's an NPC. It's like when you go to the NPC and it's like, you're like looking, like, you're like, open the the vendor menu, and it's like, where's the child? Where's the marriage? Like, I'd like one of those, please. Like, can you, that dialogue option is like, not like, they're like clicking the dialogue, like, when are you married? And then they like look at your response, and your response is no. And they're like, no, I'm looking for the yes
And they're waiting
response.
for the response to transition.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to unlock the right, like, it's like you're trying to unlock a higher tier of response from an NPC. It's like, what do we have to do to get Iman to say yes?
To introduce you to?
Exactly. It's like, I have to go complete this quest. Find Moroccan lawyer. Check. Bring Moroccan lawyer to Iman. Check. Iman, we want you to come visit. You go home. There's some random dude there. He seems awkward. You seem awkward. And then at the end of it. And at the end of it, quest failed.
Yeah.
You go to the NPC and you're like, okay, well, are you married yet? And they're like, oh fuck, we failed the quest. So then what you do when you fail a quest, right? In WoW, is you go and you pick it, you abandon it, and you pick it up again. So they're like, hey, Iman, you should come home for, whatever. You come home,
Now
there's a
it's not Moroccan lawyer, it's Moroccan doctor.
exactly. They're like, let's try
Did the
Moroccan
profession
doctor.
change much?
Yeah, and they're gonna
Yeah.
keep doing it because they're treating you like an NPC. It's unfortunate, right? We treat people as caricatures. Anyway, I was just talking to Twitch chat.
It's okay. I go on long rants to Twitch chat as well.
Cool.
Or tangents, I guess.
So, Iman, help me understand a little bit about like, I'm kind of I'm not sure where to go from here. I'm happy to continue talking if you want to. I'm happy to kind of summarize, or if you have questions or things like that. Yeah.
I think there are. Yeah. I think there's some other things that maybe we could delve into a little bit.
Okay.
Namely, especially as of late, and I don't know exactly why as of late, but I feel like I feel very jaded. And I feel
Sorry.
like what?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh, and I feel like I have a lot of pent up resentment in regards to like I don't want to say like streaming because streaming isn't what bothers me, but a lot of the things that have come of streaming.
Okay.
And I think it's resulted the jadedness in me feeling very defensive.
Okay. I didn't.
But I know we'll have to, unload that one step at a time.
Yeah. No. So defensive. So, sometimes I can be a real asshole on stream. I didn't mean to like literally
That's
laugh in your
okay.
face when you said jaded, because I just like, I was like, what the fuck do you think
You're
we've
like,
been talking
yeah.
about?
Sorry,
Right?
when I said that, it was because I was referring to, I guess, another aspect of my life.
Yeah, no, I get it. But like, this is the thing, right? This is the background process. You don't just whip yourself in one dimension. This is the shoulds. Because like when you live a life of shoulds, you're going to be resentful. Like, so this is okay. Okay.
It's so funny. At this point, it sounds like a disease. You have a really bad case of the shoulds.
It absolutely is a disease.
Do you have anything you could prescribe?
Yes, that's what I do. As I prescribe things for the case of the shoulds. I'm writing a couple of books, and one of them, like one of the chapters, is a case of the shoulda, woulda, couldas. Mm-hmm. I call it, like, I talk about it like it's a disease, because it fucking is. Okay, yeah. So like, first thing to understand is like, so let's think about where jaded comes from. Okay, so anytime you have a case of the shoulds, you end up with one of two things: shame or resentment. If you if you give in to the shoulds and you accomplish what you should do, you end up with resentment. And if you don't accomplish what you should do, you end up with shame, right? And you've got a healthy dose of both. Like, you feel guilty for not doing it. And once the should is there, you're stuck with one of those. Like, I hate to break it to you, but that's why I think about it as a disease, because that's the only thing that can happen. Because either you sacrifice of yourself and then you end up resenting, right? Like, I should have a kid. That's going to lead to jaded. Yeah. Right? All of the things that we're forced to do in life, or that we don't do of our own. Because, see, a should is not a sacrifice. Should and sacrifice are very different things. Sacrifice is a choice. Should is like a pressure. Mm-hmm. And so the second and so I think the thing is, you're going to have more resentment. And when you say jaded, what I hear is resentment. Because you gave of yourself something that you did not want to, and you like are frustrated about that. You were pushed into giving. I don't know how much of this applies. Could be completely wrong. I don't know. But so like when you said jaded, I was like, yeah, damn right. Right? Like it's not something new. It's that somewhere along there, I mean, so this is my hypothesis, is that somewhere in there, that jadedness, that resentment comes from doing things that you actually did not want to do. And you mentioned something about streaming, and I think this is a great example of like something that on the one hand you do want to do, something that you recognize as your dharma, something that you recognize as fun, and is something that you don't want to do in some ways, or that you don't want a piece of it. but you
Mhm.
force yourself to take that piece of it, maybe because you don't know how not to, or maybe because it's worth it. But there's a part of you that says, I don't want this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm stuck in that place.
Yeah. And so we can talk more about that, but like absolutely. And then you feel defensive and we can talk about what defensive is. So give me more, and this is the tricky thing. Now what I'm going to ask you to do, Iman, is don't give me, even though they're wonderful, don't give me your conclusions. Give me raw data. Right. So, and I know
Okay.
you gave a wonderful summary, so that was fantastic because that got me started and I have a framework, but maybe you've biased me in some way and maybe I already think I know the answer and maybe that's a mistake. So tell me, what do you mean by jaded?
um I think a lot of the stuff that has occurred, especially over the last 2 years, has left me jaded, both via the ways people have treated me, people that I know, as well as like randoms online.
How have you been treated?
Dab, 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 dab. um, so many people, I I just feel so like used and abused. The amount of people that will like be so nice to me and then ask me for help and behind closed doors, like, as you know, whether it's selfish or not, I really enjoy being of use to others. I get a lot of validation from that and I feel like it's good for everyone. But then like at any given opportunity will throw my name under the bus or make me the butt of a joke or will what's the word, not appeal to, anyways, well, I guess like appeal to or take advantage of the mountains of people that are ready to hate me at any moment. And then I think it also makes me really jaded to know
Jaded to know what?
that regardless of like how someone will treat me privately, the public aspect of that is so different because there's business involved.
That sounds fucked
And
up.
yeah,
What,
I agree. Well, like I don't want to say I agree because it's just my feelings, but and like
there you go, invalidating Iman again. I'm
I don't
serious.
know. I'm just so used to people invalidating me that I just start doing it to myself all the fucking time.
Yeah. It's got to change, my friend. Because you're allowed to be resentful. Oh,
Says eat muffin.
okay. Thank you.
That's so nice. Um, yeah,
Just when
and
we've
I
got
think.
you to drop an F bomb.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm glad. I think it's a sign of progress. A plus.
Yeah, and there's like two sides of it. There's like uh people where I feel it's like manipulative in the sense that like they want to be on my good side privately, but then publicly they want to appeal to the people that hate me as well. And I've literally had very popular people say very rude things about me, have their viewers harass me, and then that very same evening or next day they DM me being all nice or asking for help or whatever it is. And that is such a freaking brain boom for me because like my reflex is like if someone asks me something, I want to respond, I want to be nice, I want to like do the right thing. That's what like I should do and that's like what I enjoy doing. But then also having to like calculate, wait, but this person like has no genuine care for me. Like, they just want to say stuff that's gonna get like clipped and shipped, or have people laugh at, or ridicule me, or whatever it is. Like, they want their cake and they want to eat it too. And then
When did
there's the flip side. Sorry.
when did where do you
hmm
get your idea of what the right thing to where did you get the idea that helping people is the right thing to do?
Well, to be fair, like, it makes me feel good and I'm being helpful to someone else, so it just feels like the right thing to do.
Can I tell you a story?
Sure.
So I think we have a really messed up view of right and wrong.
hmm
So this is a train wreck of a story because I use Sanskrit names and it's hard for people to follow. So there was a long time ago in India, and I butcher the story every time. I'm going to try to keep it quick because I really want to get you talking again and hear what you have to say, but I just can't help myself because this infuriates me.
I like your stories.
So there was a king in India a couple thousand years ago, and he has a couple of kids, and his eldest son is blind, and then he has
hmm
another child who's younger, is also a boy but is not blind. And so generally speaking, in ancient India, the throne passes. I was going to say, I just wanted to, because people call you royalty, so I was like, maybe this applies to you. I have to make something. You mean Twitch royalty or what?
No.
So pay attention.
hmm
So generally speaking, what would happen is the throne would pass to the eldest son, but his eldest son is blind. So the king is kind of trying to figure out, he's like, what should I do? So he ends up saying, ultimately concluding that the kingdom is best served by a king who can see, because they would go into battle on chariots, and archery was a big part of warfare. And you have to be an archer. And like, I know that there's an anime here or there where you have blind archers, but for the most part, it's not like it's like an anime thing. It's not a real thing.
Yeah.
So he passes over his first son and passes the throne to his second son, and everyone's kind of okay with that. Eldest son is somewhat resentful, because he felt
hmm
like he deserved it, or he was
Yes.
entitled to it. And we'll see if deserving or being entitled to certain things is part of what you experience. And then like things are actually okay though, because eldest son can't really raise an army and fight a war because he's fucking blind. So then, so the king, who's the younger brother, he has children, and then the blind, he's also kind of a king. So the blind prince or whatever has children as well. And then the blind king's children are very resentful because they felt like they got a bad beat, and they felt like my father should have been king, and so
hmm
I should have been king,
hmm
but he got robbed and I'm getting robbed. So they were filled with jealousy. And so what happens is that, so there are two sets of cousins. One of the sets of cousins is called the Pandavas. They're sort of the good guys. They're the people who are actually kings. And then the bad guys are the Kauravas, and they're the jealous people. And so what happens is they're jealous for a while, and they actually try to kill their cousins here or there. And then eventually what they do is they come up with this plan to gamble, because they know that the eldest son of the Pandavas like has a weakness that he can't turn things down. So if they're
To
like, hey,
gamble?
yeah.
Okay.
So they're like, what we're going to do is we're going to invite the guy who actually rules the kingdom over for a gambling night, and then we'll like get him
Gamble
to
the
bet,
throne?
gamble the throne. Absolutely. So that's what they do. And
hmm
they kind of, they don't really cheat per se, but they've got someone on their side who's like really good at gambling. So he kind of advises them, and they end up, the good guys end up gambling away the kingdom, because that guy's a fucking dumbass. He's supposed to be a hero, but he's a fucking dumbass.
Okay.
And then eventually what happens is that one of the Pandavas advisors sort of steps in. He says, instead of gambling away the kingdom, why don't we put some conditions on it? And what you can say is that if you guys win this hand, you guys get to rule the kingdom for 13 years. But after those 13 years, we get the kingdom back. And during those 13 years, you have to go incognito. And if they find you and they can discover where you are, it resets the clock. So you basically have to go incognito mode for 13 years. And if you can successfully hide for 13 years, you get to come back and you get to take back the kingdom. And so everyone agrees to this before the bet. The bet happens. They end up losing. They lose the kingdom. They go into hiding. 13 years pass. The Kauravas try to find the Pandavas so that they can reset the timer, but they fail. And then 13 years are over. Pandavas come back and they say to the Kauravas, "Can I has my throne back, please?" And what do the Kauravas say?
I mean, they have to say yes.
They say no. They say, "Fuck you."
But
Say, "It's ours now. It's mine."
he did such a good job hiding.
Yeah, they broke. Oh, yeah, Iman. They broke the rules. They were nice to you in private and mean to you in public. And what did you say? You said, "Yeah, sure, take it." Right? You can have the best of me. And you can treat me like shit. Anyway, we'll get there in a second. So then the Pandavas are like, okay, you kind of have a fair argument, right? Like, because your dad was the older brother. And so, like, you did kind of get robbed, and it's not your fault he's blind. So let's do halvesies. You guys take half the kingdom. We'll take half the kingdom.
Halfsies. Okay.
And what do the Kauravas say?
They probably say, "Fuck you. We'll just take the whole
Absolutely.
thing because we have it already."
See, Iman? See, Iman's learning.
Fool
You
me
learned the right
once,
answer.
shame on me.
Yeah.
Fool me twice. Fuck you.
So they say, "Fuck you." And the Pandavas say, "Okay, fine, we can live with that because we're good people, Iman. They're good people. They're givers. They're helpers. Just like you. They're helpers. Right? And other people can be assholes, but we're going to be nice to them." And so they say, "Fine. We're 5 brothers, and it's our dharma, it's our duty to rule because we're kings, right? We're princes. We're royalty. I should rule something. So give us 5 villages. You guys take the rest. Give us each 1 village so that we can do what we were born on this earth to do, which is to rule and govern. And y'all can have 95% of the kingdom. Just give us 5%. What do the Kauravas say?
I feel like at that point they just say sure, whatever, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they also still say fuck you.
Absolutely. Right? Because that's how people are. They say fuck
That's
you.
so terrible.
It is.
And it leaves me feeling so jaded that people can do that and get away scot-free.
Jaded. Is that how you feel?
And they probably feel, I don't know, a word worse than jaded.
Yeah. Right? So it's almost like the story is relevant to your situation. Bizarre. So then the Pandavas say, like, they're kind of confused. And then there's a guy named Krishna. He was the guy who advised the 13-year condition, by the way. So he says, actually, like, this is unacceptable. You guys can't accept this answer. So Krishna says, you have to fight. Like, it's not acceptable. Like, you can't, if someone promises you something, like, being a giving person is one thing. Like, it's one thing to say that you were owed something and accept less. And it's another thing to even accept way less. But at some point, you have to draw your line in the sand, and being a good person is not the right thing to do.
I don't know where to draw that line.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. Right? So that's what we're going to try to teach you how to do. And then the story sort of continues, and on the eve of battle, so they like marshal their troops and they get everyone together. And on the eve of battle, one of the brothers is looking across at these people who are nice to him when they DM him, people who are his friends and his teachers, and people that he cares about and respects and he truly believes are friends. And he says, you know what? It's not fucking worth it. Like, it is not worth it to kill these people that I care about and my friends for the sake of, like, what you call justice. He says, like, I just don't want to, like, it's not worth it to actually shoot an arrow and kill that guy. He can be an asshole, but I don't want to kill him. And then Krishna says, no, you have to fight. It's absolutely worth it. Because it's not about, like, being a nice guy. Like, life is about doing your dharma, doing your duty. And in this case, your duty is not to be a nice guy. And somewhere along the way, we've conflated being a nice guy with doing your duty, right? And you did it with your parents. Your duty to them is not to protect them. That's the nice thing to do, absolutely. Because, like, how is it not the right thing to do to protect your parents? But it's not your dharma. It's not your duty. You don't owe them niceness. You owe them honesty. And you owe them the chance to make your life better. Even if it hurts them. So there's a point where you got to draw your line in the sand. And being nice is not the right thing. You've got to do what's right. And if people don't treat you right, I'm not saying like you burn all bridges because I'm not a fan of that, right? So like my road tends to be communication,
Mhm.
not, fire and brimstone, but
But I've also been severely burned that way too.
burned in what way?
Um, like even if someone like if I try to speak to someone about an issue privately, some people will out that. Some people will then judge me for trying to resolve something privately. It just feels like whether I respond, don't respond, it doesn't matter what I do, it will be twisted and used against me to make me look
Do
like
you
a
feel
terrible person.
powerless? You sound
Yes.
powerless in this situation. What I'm
Hmm.
hearing from you more than anything else is that you don't have any kind of agency. Like, no matter what you do, you get fucked.
Yes.
That sounds awful. I don't know.
I feel bad saying that because, like,
Go ahead, say the word.
I
Sure.
don't like, I don't want to like play victim, like, both because I'm not perfect and because I have privilege, but that
You
is
should.
how
You
I
shouldn't be
feel.
complaining, Iman. Isn't that what you're saying?
Yeah. Get in the closet.
Good. Now you're learning. Get in the fucking closet. Yeah, Iman, you're not allowed to have feelings. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? Having feelings? Being hurt by people? You're Twitch royalty. Who the fuck told you you get to have feelings? And this is the crazy thing about Twitch, right? Like this is what people don't understand is that people look at you and they look at streamers and they look at the audience and they think that there's a power dynamic between these two people. That one of these people is stronger than the other. The whole fucking point of Twitch is that we're all equal, right? Like what we see here is like a terrible power dynamic because how do you even fight against them?
Mhm.
They're formless. They're infinite in number.
Mhm.
And you're half a person because half of you's in the closet.
Yeah.
Like, what's the real power? Like, if the internet is mad at you, I learned this the hard way. When I did an open Q&A on my Discord live on stream, and boy, did I get fucked.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually a hilarious experience. But, like, there were 300 people in the Discord chat, and we were just talking, and I was answering questions, and one guy decides that he's going to start dropping N-bombs.
Yeah. There's
And then
always one guy.
and he just doesn't say anything except for the n-word over and over and over again, and he says it in a way, I mean, like, there's a small part of me that can't blame the guy because I appreciated what he was doing
He
because
saw an opportunity.
yeah, I know, it's like, strike while the iron is hot, and he said it like chugga 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 chugga. Need something? Yeah, sure. um so he grabbed, anyway, so he and so there was a part of me that thought it was hilarious. Like, I can't, if I saw that on LSF, I would have laughed.
Mhm.
So I can't blame the guy. But like, that's like, there's just no way that like an individual person can fight against the multitudes. Like, you just can't. Like, you can't win against Reddit. You can be loved by Reddit and you can be loved by Twitch, but you can't win against them. Right? It's like a Hydra. Like, you chop off one head. Like, that's like what I'm hearing from you is the story of the Hydra. You chop off one head, it grows two more. You
Mhm.
argue with someone on Reddit, and it's like, boy, there are two people downvoting you. For everyone, it's amazing. It's like every villain story brought to life.
Mhm.
Anything you send them away like only makes them stronger, Iman. Any
Yeah.
kind of
Even
toxicity.
this, I worry feels like giving people ammo for whatever it may be.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to say something absolutely crazy, which is give them as much ammo as they want to, because whether that ammo lands or not is on you.
What do
They
you
can
mean?
shoot, but it's your
Mhm.
choice whether you get hit. They can send you venom and they can send you toxicity. And by the way, maybe this is famous last words, right? Because maybe I don't know, because I've never been on the bad end. I mean, people criticize me and stuff, but like, I don't think it's been anywhere near what a lot of, and I'm grateful for that. Please don't. Please don't kill me. But it's easy for me to say, so I acknowledge that. But
Mhm.
I do believe that like the funny thing is that like I think that I do a lot of. I mean, I think the cool thing and what I mean by give them ammo is that I think that Twitch isn't evil, right? Like, sure, it's this Hydra, but like sometimes the Hydra cuddles you. And that's actually what I've discovered in the month of May is like people are donating like thousands of dollars. Like the Hydra is like amazing and it's powerful, but it's not evil. It's just like Twitch can be a force of good and power and support. And I think that's why you're successful because it's not if you think about like the Hydra has a lot more heads that are licking you than it does that are like biting you.
That's true.
And sometimes it's easy to forget that. It's so easy to forget that. And that comes down to attachment and a couple of other things. But I mean, I don't think that you should let, if it's being a bad Hydra, you've got to smack it on the nose and say, bad Hydra. That you should feel, and I want you to feel empowered to say things, to speak your truth. And like, if the consequences happen, the consequences happen. It's kind of like sometimes you got to be, who Tank Man is? Anyway, so there's like this very famous photo from Tiananmen Square of like a dude with a grocery bag standing in front of a line of tanks. And anyway, if you it's old now, but like
Mhm.
there's like it's you've probably seen the same sentiment can be found in take your pick of anime of when the underdog stands up.
Okay.
And you just gotta you gotta hold your line sometimes, and like if the tanks roll over you, they roll over you. Like I'm not saying like and because you are powerless, like you can't stop a line of tanks with a human body, but like that shouldn't stop you from speaking your truth. I'm sorry, I've been talking for a while, but
No, it's okay.
so there's a part of me that says like if people are mean to you in private, then you should let them know that it's hurtful, and if they want to air that dirty laundry, then you're done with them.
That feels like so much unnecessary drama. I've
Well,
gotten to the point where it's just I avoid where I am aware enough to avoid.
what does that mean?
If I feel a situation, even where I am wronged, and perhaps I should tell someone, like, why are you messaging me like this when you were just talking shit however long ago? I don't even feel like I should do that because that's like uh, an open invitation to perhaps creating more drama. And so it's like, maybe I will just have no friends, and so I have no expectations of anyone.
That's a sad way to live life.
Yeah, but maybe I will get hurt less that way.
You will get hurt less.
But I understand. It's like, it's better to have loved than not to have loved at all. You
I
should
mean,
take the risk.
no, no. But let's not accept that, right? Like, let's make it. Let's study that. Let's be scientific. So, like, you've got a choice, and I don't think. I mean, I'm with you that I personally believe it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. But it's easy for me to say that because I haven't really lost. I started out with
Mhm.
nothing, and it's different. Like I'm in a different place because I had nothing for a long time, and then I've gained a lot, and I don't really know what it's like to lose. I was like, there's a difference between losing your money and like being broke from the get go. And so I don't really know what it's like to lose. Like even on Twitch, like I'm still in the honeymoon phase, I think, of people having
Savor it.
I'm just ignorant. Like I just don't know. Like I don't know. You know, that's what everyone tells. All the boomers tell me, like you do. Savor it. Who's the boomer now? Twitch boomer. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I think you can try that, right? Like you can try ignoring them. You can try not being connected to them, and then there's something in me that says that like actually if we challenge people in the right way and we sort of disarm their defensiveness, that maybe they can grow. And like I don't know, I'm just like I don't know what would happen because you say it sounds like when you take issue with them, they like air it publicly and it creates more drama.
Sometimes, yeah.
And what about the other times?
Uh, Sometimes they react very defensively.
Mhm.
I think also because, like, I don't know. It's like behind my back, it's easy to make fun of me, but directly to me, perhaps they're intimidated on some level. And if I come to them with, like, oh, like, this thing is not okay, they'll just be very defensive, be mad, make a bigger deal out of it privately and publicly, whatever it is. It's gone all sorts of ways. And the only times it ever, like, r really goes well is if someone is, like, closer to me or we have a more legitimate, baseline friendship, as opposed to just, like, being friends or knowing each other or being on good terms. But actually that brings me to the other point of, like, kind of being jaded or feeling bad because even though I have a lot of, like, good friends on Twitch, I never ever feel like anyone would risk standing up for me because it could be bad for business. And I mean, that's nice and fair when it's just business, but sometimes when you think about it, it kind of sucks, mainly because but, like, I understand a lot of people just, like, don't like, that's not part of their personality, but it is, like, part of my personality. If I ever saw one of my friends being wronged, it's just, like, in me to want to, like, stand up for them or being like or say, like, "That's not true, that's not fair, blah, blah, blah." And sometimes feeling like that would never be reciprocated or never really is reciprocated kind of feels bad. So kind of like that whole area of my work, like when it's just me streaming to my audience and like having a good like a good time, like that's fine. But then everything past that feels like such a headache. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, honestly. Of
Can I think for a second?
course. Take all the time you want. I have no plans. This is my plans.
Man, this is complicated.
Do you say that often during these kinds of sessions? I don't know.
Uh, uh, I don't know. I try not to pay
Doesn't
attention to
matter, I
myself.
guess.
If I didn't say it often, what does that mean for you?
I don't know. I guess you sounded taken aback or surprised or something. I don't know. I guess it does not mean much. It is what it is.
No, I
It
think
is what it is.
I think it means I think it means something. Just
Maybe it validates my situation to some extent.
I think so.
That feels nice.
Hmm. Do I say validating things often?
I have not kept track.
Okay.
I think you are not trying to tip the scales in any given way too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
But this feels like a nice conversation, not paying attention to how validating it may or may not be. I just feel like it's nice to have a back and forth about things that I don't frequently talk about.
so there are a couple of different things here, and I don't know. So Iman, I want to say if you're game with it, maybe we can dig into this more later.
Mhm.
Just because I tend to need so the more complicated it is, the more I want to be at 100%, and I don't know how long I can stay at 100% because I think this could be another. Like I can't. There's no way that you're gonna get. There's no way that I can put forward my best self over the course of the next hour and a half.
That's okay.
Um, and at the same time, I think we can definitely start talking about it. But I just so like there are a couple of different dimensions here. Okay, so the first is that, and this is I don't mean to make this sound as invalidating as it's going to come across, but why do you care, right? Like, what's your skin in the game? Like, what is it about the drama and the things that are said on Reddit and the things that are said about you and not to your face that bother you? So there's something about ego and identity and respect, and whether that respect comes from the outside or whether it comes from the inside. Like your worth and where on the axis of like within Iman and outside of Iman it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, unfortunately, like you being Moroccan doesn't really help with this. And like I know that basically Tiger parents and Indian parents, because it is like they do tell you, right? Oh, so and so is getting married, right? Like, and this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So we're kind of ingrained, and you don't have, I mean, you can be Caucasian or Hispanic or whatever. It just depends on what kind of parents you are. But culturally, like at least South Asian, East Asian, and sort of like Middle Eastern cultures are very, very big into image, and that respect is something that can be like measured with like a measuring stick, right? It's like not only is that person a doctor, it's like they tell me which school he went to, and like my terror. I mean, I tell my mom, you know, my mom doesn't, thankfully, she doesn't make that mistake. So she doesn't talk about me, which is great. Right. So, and so I think the first thing is about like where your attachment to this whole issue. So I think there's salvation if you become unattached from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's one option. But then there are a couple of other things, because I just don't think it's like, you know, it's a shitty answer to say just care less. Like so like while I think that that's true, I don't think that that's like sufficient, or we're not anywhere near there yet, because not caring means that you have strength coming from in here, and I just don't think you have that. And that kind of goes
And
back. Yeah, go ahead.
to what we were saying before, which is my lack of time being able to develop
Ab-
a sort of identity. That's
abso-
kind of how I've related the two, which is just like the way to not care about what people think is just to like be confident enough in yourself.
Absolutely. Right. So
And
there's
then
an
I go,
issue.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think the other thing is when we talk about defensiveness, like that's the ego, right? Like, so when someone gets defensive, that's their ego activating. That's them sense of like wanting to fight back. And I think part of what you're running into is that you activate the egos of other people because they know they did something wrong. And then very few people have the wherewithal to like recognize when their ego is active, and that the words that are coming out of their mouth are by definition wrong because their mind is butthurt. And the more butthurt you are, the more incorrect things you're going to think, and the more incorrect things you're going to say. But that's not something that they teach us. That when your ego is active, that's you being hurt. And then like anything that comes afterward, you know. So my kid at 4 a.m. came and slept with